Congratulations on being ready to jump into 3-octave scales. It is super fun to climb up and down your fingerboard and hopefully not as hard as you might imagine it would be. Before we get into the details, I want to talk just a little bit about why we do scales because that's really going to shape how you practice. Here's some of the reasons that we might be bringing to the table. We might be practicing scales because our teacher told us to. That's a good start. We might be practicing scales because we think we should. It's also a good start. And we might be practicing scales because we think it's going to make us better. And that's true, but that's only a start. Here's why to practice scales. There is almost nothing more basic than playing one note and then the next note and then the next note and the next note. It is way easier than any of your pieces. So this is your chance to do your very highest level playing on some really, really simple material, right? And just take it up to a really high level. Your scales should be the best quality playing that you do in your practice. There are 6 things that I'm really listening for as I do my scales. Number 1, I want to create my most amazing, huge tone. I'm dropping my arm into the string, I'm feeling the stick against my finger, all of those things that you think about in terms of tone production, that's priority number 1. It is pretty easy to make a lightweight tone. It's a lot harder to really find where's that edge where I'm like filling the room, and if I add only like 1 nano micro little bit of weight more, I'm going to crunch. So you want to go up to that very edge and find where that is, right? Because that's your concert hall sound right there. So that's priority 1. Going along with that, full bows, right? Every single speed of the scale, because we're going to do some acceleration patterns. At every step of the way, frog to tip, literally from your finger, right? You don't have to play under your hand, but from your finger all the way to the tip. Don't cut yourself any slack. Make yourself use the whole thing. Another thing that I'm thinking about when I do scales is really making my bow changes smooth at both the frog and the tip. I find frog is a little harder, right? Lifting up just a tiny little bit so I don't get a crunch there. And then at the tip, what I find most difficult is making sure that I'm really leaning in. The tendency is to lose a little bit of sound at the tip. You have to think of sort of crescendoing into the tip just to maintain your sound. So how much sound can you get even in that upper region of the bow? I'm also thinking about intonation. Probably goes without saying. I'm working on my shifts. I might do isolated little segments of the scale. I might do, say, the upper octave, for example, of the scale. That's going to be your harder octave usually, just to isolate some of the shifts. And I'm going for not just getting it right, but getting it to the point where it's really reliable. I want to be able to get it right every single time. And I'm going to do that segment of the scale until I'm really nailing that shift every single time. And then the last thing that I'm really listening for is vibrato. And I might choose not to do vibrato for some reasons, but if I am doing it, I want to make sure that I'm vibrating every single note, right? Every one. Even if on this faster speeds, it's just sort of like a shimmer of vibrato, it's still going to make that sound be more organic and kind of have a little scintillation to it. And the notes that are going to be hardest for you to remember to vibrate are your 4th fingers, of course, and the notes before and after your shifts. So getting vibrato on every single note, because any of the notes that we leave out, it may not be apparent to you, but it really does jump out to the audience when there's a note that's bare and the notes around it have vibrato. So those are my big priorities when I do the scales. And you know, to get all of those things happening at the same time is actually quite a lot of work. I find that I might do the same speed of scale, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times to really get all of those things happening and happening together at the same time before I advance on to the next speed.